So last week, Bill Shorten managed to prevent gay marriage being decided in Australia via a plebiscite or public vote. Some see this as cause for celebration, others see it as an attack on democracy itself. But let's suppose what would have happened had a public vote went forward. Who exactly would have voted no? Before we talk about the plebiscite, it would be best if we first understood just how the government actually works in Australia. Australia's federal government consists of two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives consists of 150 seats, while the Senate has 76 respectively. Come election time, the various political parties will hold their campaigns where citizens will vote for which political party will represent them in their local electorate. Once the votes are counted and tallied up, the party that has the highest number of seats is declared the winner and will proceed to form the governing cabinet, while the party that had the second highest number of seats will form the opposition. During a meeting of the House of Representatives, or question time, MPs can ask questions of government ministers, including the Prime Minister himself, about their policies, which they are obliged to answer. A typical format for such a question might be, could the Minister for such electorate please discuss the benefit of the government's initiative on XYZ, and is the Minister aware of any alternative policies? Now, this format of back and forth questioning between the elected government and the opposition allows for proper debate to be conducted and for specific objections to policy to be raised. So when it comes to new laws and bills being introduced, a member will announce to the House their proposal. All 150 members will vote either for or against the bill to be passed. If the bill is passed, it is then taken to the Senate, where the senators will conduct their own debate and discussion. They will vote, and the decision will be brought before the Governor-General, who will approve it on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. So that brings us to the issue of same-sex marriage in Australia. First of all, it should be understood that same-sex de facto unions have been recognised by the government under the 1975 Family Law Act. Couples who are living together are generally recognised as a de facto union and thus are able to claim many of the rights and benefits of a married couple, even if they have not registered or officially documented their relationship. During 2004, Attorney General Philip Ruddock introduced the Marriage Amendment Bill, intending to incorporate the common law definition of marriage into the Family Law Act. In June that year, the bill passed the House of Representatives and the Senate passed the amendment by 38 votes to 6. The amendment specifies, and I quote, "Marriage means the union of a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others voluntarily entered into for life. Certain unions are not marriages. A union solemnized in a foreign country between A man and another man, or B, a woman and another woman, must not be recognised as a marriage in Australia." So simply, Australia, under the Howard government at the time, would not recognise same-sex marriage. The only parliamentary vote to be held on same-sex marriage so far occurred in 2012, when the House of Representatives rejected a bill introduced by Labor MP Stephen Jones aimed at legalising same-sex marriage by 98 votes to 42. The Liberal National Coalition under Tony Abbott subsequently won government at the next federal election. The coalition party ultimately resolved on 11th of August 2015 that members would not have a free vote within the party. Tony Abbott announced that while the coalition would maintain its position of a marriage being between heterosexuals for the duration of the existing parliamentary term, he stated that he felt convicted to hold a national vote on same-sex marriage sometime after the 2016 election, either in the form of a plebiscite or a constitutional referendum. Of course, the LNP did win the election, with Malcolm Turnbull becoming our current Prime Minister. And while Malcolm Turnbull himself is a supporter of same-sex marriage, he still has vowed his affirmation that the issue should be resolved via a public vote. Sadly, that wouldn't happen, as Bill Shorten succeeded in passing a bill that would block a plebiscite for the remainder of the current term.
As possible. A no campaign would be an emotional torment for gay teenagers. And if one child commits suicide over the plebiscite, then that is...
Now, I'm in no way dissing the issue of teen suicide as a result of bullying. It is a legitimate issue that warrants proper attention. But what exactly are the statistics with regards to teen suicide in relation to gender-based bullying? I know that watching Question Time on ABC during the afternoon can be depressing, but enough to make a high school student commit suicide? I don't know about that. But it does beg the question, if a public vote were to go forward, who specifically would vote no? The obvious answer would be the Christian community. In the 2011 census, Roman Catholics made up 25.3% of the Australian population. Anglicans, 17.1%. Other denominations such as Pentecostals, Baptists, Presbyterians, 18.7%. Now understand that these figures do not take into account individual statements of faith, whether they attend a local church, or even if they understand the gospel message itself. But even if we were to cut these percentages in half, we're still talking at least 30% of the Australian population identifies with the Judeo-Christian worldview. Buddhists make up 2.5%, Hindus 1.3%, and Muslims 2.2%, and that number is growing. More Muslims are immigrating to Australia on a yearly basis, settling in major cities, getting jobs, starting families, enrolling their kids in schools. And they are bringing with them a worldview with beliefs and values that will clash with the ideology of the Labor Party. The imam at your local mosque will not be a same-sex marriage supporter. Full stop. The number of people who said no religion, that is, atheists, agnostic, secularists, or simply those who do not identify with any form of mainstream religion, numbered at 22.3%. And I don't doubt for a second that in 2016 that number is getting bigger and bigger. Now there is one other sector of the Australian religious community that has stayed out of the media spotlight during the whole issue. I am of course referring to Indigenous Australians, Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders. In August 2015, Speaker of the House Tony Smith was presented with a petition containing 70 signatures of leaders throughout various Indigenous tribes and communities throughout Australia. Unfortunately, the only news outlet to cover the petition was the Australian newspaper. Apart from that, the whole thing was ignored by mainstream media, and for good reason. With all the hard work that the Labor Party put into reconciliation with Indigenous Australians, culminating in Kevin Rudd saying, sorry, will Australia's Aboriginal population simply sit on the fence while Bill Shorten and Senator Penny Wong campaign for policies that stand as an affront to the traditions held by our nation's original owners? I don't think that's a can of worms anyone wants to open anytime soon. What about the LGBT community itself? Between 2006 and 2014, the Roy Morgan Research Organisation asked almost 180,000 Australians over the age of 14 to agree or disagree to the statement, I consider myself a homosexual. In 2006 to 2008, around 1 in 4 people, that is 2.4% of the survey, agreed. By 2009 to 2011, this had risen to 1 in 32, 3.1%. And during 2012 to 2014, the figure was higher again, at around 1 in 29, 3.5%. So even in 2016, if we were to be generous and increase the percentage to a full 5% and apply that to the population of Australia, which at 24 million, we're talking about 1,200,000 people are estimated to identify as LGBT. Now that might seem like a big number, but at under 5%, we have to be honest, the LGBT community on their own, by themselves, just do not have the numbers necessary to turn the political and cultural tide against the conservative majority. And people from outside of Australia may ask, what is taking Australia so long on the same-sex marriage issue? Britain has passed it? America has passed it? What's taking Australia so long? I dare say it's because, with such a low percentage of LGBT standing up against a conservative population majority, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Now, I would make the case that the number of people who would actually vote no is in fact higher than what the Australian media puts forward, and the senior leaders of the Labor Party are scared to death of such. Consider this clip of Bill Shorten being confronted by an Anglican minister.
I don't want to take anything to the press.
You are.
I'm not. Just,
it's all right.
Okay, one quick thing. You made a comment a few months ago, which I thought was disappointing, because I like you and I like the Labor Party.
Thank you for
where
that.
You described people who weren't in favour of changing the definition of marriage as haters who come out from under rocks. Can I ask you not to speak? Because I know lots of people like that. I'm saying so, but please.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Let me just.
You're asking
please
me,
don't speak like that about other Australians, so we can have a civil and tolerant discussion, rather than the hate speak coming from, our perspective.
If you're going to quote me accurately.
Well, that's how you were quoted in a number of bits of the press. Tell me what you said then. I'll be glad if I was wrong.
Just please don't hector me. Let me just. You've got to give me the chance to speak.
Yes, go.
Thank you for that. First of all, people of faith can be opposed to marriage equality.
It's not about faith.
Sorry.
It's just a point of view.
Yes, sorry.
Right.
If you've got more to say, I'll listen to you. That's
okay,
fine.
well, thank you.
People of faith can be opposed to marriage equality, but some people who object to marriage equality do have homophobic attitudes.
Of course. Thank you. If we're going to have a sensible, intelligent, tolerant discussion, our leaders need to model that, rather than taking cheap, nasty, untruthful shots at people. Of course there are haters on both sides of this discussion, but they need to model for us intelligent, respectful tolerance, which is supposed to be our great virtue. And I just thought, since he's an Australian, since I was here, since he read the Beatitudes, I may as well ask him personally, because I've written letters and they just get ignored.
Now, in both Parliament and television interviews, Bill Shorten has tried to give verbal assent to those who would object to same-sex marriage for religious reasons. But when asked up front for specifics in public, he runs away. Now, should it worry anyone when you have a politician who can be a passionate beast during question time in Canberra, but yet they chicken out when the questions are put before him in public? And this is how a plebiscite would affect Australian culture. It would mean that the media would have to give as much airtime to the opponents of same-sex marriage as they would the supporters. That the conversation and debate would not just be limited to Q&A on ABC with Tony Jones or Insight on SBS, but Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, along with the newspapers, will all have to feature the interviews with the priests, the pastors, the imam, the Aboriginal elders, and everyone else who is willing and able to say why marriage should be kept between man and woman. You only have to watch Channel 7 or Channel 10 to see that for the most, the Australian media is ridiculously left-wing. They do not want to have a conservative voice on commercial television. Even if there was a majority yes vote, given the statistics I presented with regards to the religious diversity of Australia and the impact it would have on how people vote, may I submit that such a victory will be narrow at best to the extent that it will leave those in both Parliament and the media in a state of shock. Oh my! Is this really what Australia thought about this? Why didn't we see it? And that, my friends, is why I honestly believe that Bill Shorten acted in haste to pass a bill that would prevent the plebiscite from happening. He knew the impact it would have upon our media, our parliamentary system, just how people are represented. So with the anti-plebiscite bill in place, where does that leave us as Australia? Is there anything we can do? Actually, there is. Let's remember the way our parliamentary system works. Your local MP has the job of representing you and your interests in the House of Representatives. When you voted for them back in July, it was under the pretense that they would be representing your interests, your concerns. If you voted for your current MP under the pretense that their policies lined up with your beliefs, and you feel that right now they are not so much doing so, I would say you are obligated to get in contact with them. Send them an email, write a letter, make a phone call, or even arrange an appointment to see your minister in person. Get the message out. Hey, we voted for you. Why aren't you representing us? I honestly believe that if over the next few months enough Australians were to get in touch with their local Member of Parliament and say, this is what we believe, this is what we hoped you would represent in Canberra, then it would lead to a complete reform of our parliamentary system. What I honestly fear is that what's happening in Canberra is that we are transitioning away from being a representative democracy and we're becoming a consolidated bureaucracy. It is not so much the case that the people in Canberra are there to represent the Australian public, but rather they are making their own decisions autonomously without any input from the public whatsoever. If that were to happen, where does that leave us? If you're watching this and you feel compelled to speak out, here's what I want you to do. Whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, use the hashtag I would vote capital N, capital O. I would vote no. Put on your status. Share it. Make this trending so we can get the word out. And I believe that we can make Australia the democracy it should be. Thank you for watching.